We have a great show today. I'm really excited. We've got Jana Fuelberth, CEO of an awesome company called Analytic.li, technology startup. And so I want to talk about problems, pain, and how we deal with it, and how you've used that to grow your business. So your business has gone through an evolution by dealing with pain, the customer's pain, but also dealing with your own pain. So talk to us about that. How did this get started?
Yeah, absolutely. So like every entrepreneurial venture, every innovation, we started selling payroll, right? You know, because that's the start of everyone's story.
Right.
But about 5.5 years ago, I was part of a company, and we were selling a really commoditized product. So in a space, I mean, payroll is kind of like
boring.
Boring.
Boring, not very fun. Everybody's got it. It's a commodity.
Yeah, it's kind of like Wi-Fi.
Right.
Everybody like just expects it to be cheaper and faster.
Yep.
But when it breaks, it's like pitchforks and shovels outside your door.
Yep. Oh yeah, you can't get it wrong.
Yeah, no. And when you get it right, it's there's not a lot of thank yous and attaboys and attagirls.
Right.
No, it's just expected to be right.
It's just expected.
Like you only hear from the customer when there's bad news.
Yes.
Which is not fun.
Which is not fun.
Okay.
Which is not fun. And so we had crazy customer retention, but I would say we had like zero customer delight. You know, how do you...
And really not your fault. It was just kind of the nature of the space.
It's just
like the way it is. It's almost like, because it's so commoditized, because the standard is so competitive, people think they're there to abuse you almost.
Right.
Or at least they're almost there, they're almost there as a favor to you, even if you do a good job. So you're going along, and what happened to kind of, did you just get tired of it?
Well, I think we got tired of it, number one.
Okay.
But number two, as like a leader, you look at your team and you're like, how can I set them up for success? And how can I set them up to have a meaningful work experience?
Right.
And when perfection is just the expectation and there's absolutely no wiggle room.
It's not a lot of fun.
Right, like your W-2 is not a place where people like wiggle room.
Yep.
We started to say, gloves off, what if we just leaned in and listened to a couple of customers? And we said, what could we do? Really, what could we do to delight a customer? So we chose 3. We chose, a customer that was kind of tough, a customer and then 2 of our favorites, right? Who are always willing to give us feedback.
Wow, that's a cool exercise.
Right.
So I'm gonna interrupt you.
Yeah.
So you went and did customer-centered innovation, right? Which is one of the things we talk about a lot, is making sure you really understand what are all the jobs to be done that your customer does. You looked inside to say, not only inside yourself, but inside their business.
Exactly.
And so what are the problems they're dealing with every day?
Right. And so I strongly believe that the best innovation comes from customer empathy, really understanding their pain. We had over 350 customers, so I would say that we have that box checked. Because what I learned in working with the customers is we would ask them all the typical marketing research questions. And, what do you do with the product? What do you like? What do you not like? And we kind of got vanilla, just kind of, standard answers. And so I said, all right, like, tell me about your week.
Yeah.
So you process payroll, and then what? And here's where the gold came. So we were working with a gentleman who owned 13 different UPS stores.
Wow.
Like, talk about a hustle, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Those are franchisable?
Yeah, I didn't know that.
stores?
They're
Really?
So he's got 13 of them.
Don't give Dustin another idea for another investment.
I know.
We got plenty to focus on here. We've already had a couple forays that we're trying to deal with.
I know. And so what he would say is, okay, so on Fridays, he goes, I really like your payroll system because I can say this store I spent this much on labor in this store, and this much on labor in this store, and this much on labor in this store. And so he goes, on Friday, I take about 90 minutes. I'm like, oh my gosh. He goes, I run 13 different reports out of your payroll system, and then I run 13 different reports out of QuickBooks. And then I take the revenue from QuickBooks and my point of sale, and I take the labor from your payroll system, and I do this cute little macro-enabled pivot table spreadsheet, and voila, then I know on Monday where I'm going to go spend my time. Because he was
looking at where to spend his time as a manager, for all the different units he had.
Right.
And that was the first insight that you started to see that led to Analytically?
Yeah, right, because then I said, well, wouldn't you want to know like which one had more overtime and which one struggled with staffing and who had the most sales, like transactions? And he goes, well, yeah, Jana, but I only have like 90 minutes to dedicate to this. And so that's when it clicked.
You know, like Dustin, I was just thinking about how we've evolved Ironclad. Because in listening to the customer and watching what the customer does, when we started getting all these investors from other markets, from California, from China, you know, the bus tour almost, like, right? How we started to say, hey, there's a phenomenon here that there's other people want to invest in Indianapolis. How do we attract more of those?
Right.
I mean, that's kind of the same kind of thing, isn't it? Like,
right.
So empathy is the true power. So you get, how do you go from seeing that empathy to creating a service for that? What was the first attempt for that? How did you even think about how would we do this for you? Because he was doing it for himself.
He was doing it for himself, and so we started doing it for him.
Okay.
And we stumbled upon workforce analytics. So really, what Analytically does today is we've defined workforce analytics, the study of productivity, efficiency, and quality in any business.
And what I think is important for everybody to know is, like, when you say we created workforce analytics, you basically created a new category.
We did. We
Right.
did, because you can Google and find workforce analytics out there in the SEO land. But I strongly believe that no technology, no partner out there has really defined it yet, because they've done it in a self-serving way.
Knowing that you guys are a client of mine, one of the things that I've always said is that, like, there's all this money being spent on analytics.
Right.
There's all this money being spent on visualization of data. There's all this money being spent on like, what, you know, I think I read with Domo and the other big one that was I can't remember, what's the other big one? Tableau. They raised almost $1 billion. Crazy money coming into this space. How are we but to separate that and to give the average HR manager, the floor line manager, the ability to make good decisions in real time, or to do decision automation even,
Right.
that's where you guys separate yourself from all the crowd. But that's still, what, 25 evolutions from when did you first deliver that value to a client and ask for money?
Right. So it was, let's see here, 18 months ago.
Okay.
18 months ago, we had our first customer sign up and say yes. And I will say, you always remember the first person that said yes.
Yeah.
So I mean, you basically, I came to, I was talking to him on Friday, John Leopold at Goodwill, and I said, it's going to look like this someday. And he said, I'm in.
Screenshot.
Right.
Screenshot.
Not even a screenshot, a mock-up. A screenshot means that it exists.
Okay.
A mock-up means that you work
it
with
wasn't
the
even
design team.
vaporware.
Right. It wasn't even vaporware at that point. But I think part of that was that we proved that we really understood his problem. Because his problem was...
I could say that again because that's so important for everybody to understand. You proved to somebody, the customer, that you truly understood their problem.
Yep.
Well, that also means understanding their business.
Right.
As if you could run their business for them.
Yeah. So empathy being the true power, right? That you were able to ask for money before you even had a product.
Right.
Because you showed them how much you understood their problem.
And not to get super nerdy, but that's how you get your innovators. So if you think about the product adoption curve of innovators, early adopters, you know, early majority, late majority, laggards, the way that you get your early adopter or your innovators is it's like this, and based on a lot of heart and understanding their heart too.
Well, one of the things that we talk about a lot is being in co, right? In that we're like, this is my coach speak, but it's been collaborating, communicating, co-creating. And I think what you're doing and what you've done is that you basically co-created your product with the client. And that is what is so powerful about the environment we're in right now, from a business standpoint, from a technology moves so fast.
Absolutely.
That you have to give the client a stakeholder voice in your value creation. And that's what, that took you from being just another, forgive me, payroll company,
right,
to a company that was creating new value. And so talk to us, when you got that traction and you started to catch, when did you fully realize you were doing a new business? That this was more valuable than the business you were doing before?
You know, I honestly think that I had that realization 6 months ago.
Really?
It's been
Even after you didn't really get that when you
well, because we were kind of crazy, we decided to sell one business and start the new business, start analytically in the same month. So it's like we didn't, you know, some of my girlfriends that are having their like second child, they're like, and then their third, they're like, we didn't even notice it. It just kept you're just moving so quickly that you don't even have that like salient moment of stepping back.
So I'm going to stop you there, because there's this relationship with normal that business people have, small businesses, and I would say startups really have. And this is something where, like remember when you did 3 deals a month and that was a big deal?
Yeah.
Remember? I mean, remember when you did like 5 deals and that was like, holy crap? Now you guys are doing 10, 15 deals. But just the relationship we have with normal. I have to, like, I remember like coaching a lot of the teams I work with, or like even my own teams. It's like, guys, what normally we usually do this. We've only been doing this for 3 months. What do you mean normally? Like, what do we mean normally? Our proposals are this much, and I mean, why can't we ask for that type of money? But it's. Do you just think that sometimes we have to really remind ourselves what normal used to be?
You have to take a step back. And I think and then as you start bringing on other people, and this has been the big realization for me, as you start bringing on more people. So we started as a team of 7, and now we're over 25.
Yeah.
And so many of my team members that are new, one of the gals sat me down the other day. She was like, we need you to take us from when it was 7 to now. Because, you know, your onboarding experience is different. Your client, the first time and he knows who he is, the first time that we implemented our first customer, we didn't even have a login screen. Right? So when you think about like effortless onboarding and customer experience, our CX team is always like, remember when, right? You know, there wasn't even a login screen.
Yeah. But as you have grown, how has your world changed in the organization?
Yeah, that was my question.
Right?
Yeah, so it's kind of this wild, surreal moment. So I tell you, you drive up to the office and you park your car and you look around, and there's this moment of everyone came here from this idea that I had one day.
Yeah.
And everyone has maybe left Fortune 100 jobs, they've left stock on the table, they've left, you know, big future 401k, whatever you call it. And so my job is to reattach everyone back to the vision every single day.
That's a great, I mean, I always say that the first job you have every day is to sell the company back to the people who work there, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's what you're saying in a better way, by the way, more eloquently. But as you realize that role, what are some of the struggles that you've had internally, like, you know, that you could share with people? Like, do you find missing the old job sometimes and going, man, I wish it was just, I mean, I know you and I have had this conversation multiple times, like where you were, you know, a top producer and you were making, I mean, you know, great living, being the deal guy, right? And now he's got 5, 6, 7 people, and we're trying to figure out how to go to 10 to 15 and how to franchise into other cities. And one of the conversations we're having a lot is like, when you're in that uncomfortable place where you don't like the new role or you don't know how to do the new job.
Right.
I mean, how have you dealt with that?
So I think first and foremost, I have what I call the kid effect. So every single day when I park my car, despite what's gone on in the morning, I think about how are my actions and how am I showing up going to impact my team's kids. So when they leave and they go home and they start hanging out with their kiddos, like is mom or dad, how are they showing up for those kids? And so you really have to check yourself. And so not to sound like a typical millennial, because I'm not good at this, self-care. You know, you've got to be able to show up your best self every single day. And if you're not your best self, you got to find a way to get there.
What type of environment do you feel like you've created?
Well, one where I expect people to fail.
Because they're pushing themselves so hard in different ways, or that in order for them to truly succeed, they have to fail first.
And it's a safe place.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of interns, and we have a lot of, analytically is your first job out of school. And so one of the things that I tell everyone on their first day is, I hope you fail here. I hope you fail here, because if you can learn it, because I'm all about find an environment where you can find this most stressful situation with the least amount of risk.
Well, and I want to speak to that because we're both in tech, and here's what I have found with techies. They work very hard to be the smartest people in the room. They are very, very proud of what they know. And their relationship with failure, sometimes encouraging them to fail forward, can be tough. And they can be tough with others who have failed in their presence. How do you teach that culture? And then Dustin, I want you to comment to this because like when you guys fail, I mean, it costs you money.
It costs a lot of money.
You know that, right? I mean, like when they do a deal wrong, right? I mean, it's tens of thousands of dollars, if not more. So how do you help people fail forward, knowing that they've got that background?
I don't think that there's a way to teach failure. I think that there's a way to do failure, and then to invite other people to do it with you.
Lead by example.
So even this weekend, and then what's really cool is if you create this community and this culture and this environment, then people call you on your failures, but then it pulls you out of it. So I completely overcommitted myself for personal work, philanthropic, everything this 1 week coming up in October, and I had to painfully tell a couple of people that I couldn't do it. I had to step back, and I was talking to someone on my team this weekend, and you know what? She gave me this most beautiful gift, and she goes, "You failed." And she goes, "If you're going to walk into Analytically and talk about failure," she goes, "look what you're doing." And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, you're right. You know, so it's really, I don't think you get to teach failure. I think you get to do failure, and then you also get to create that environment where people get the opportunity. This is going to sound weird. I create an environment where people get the opportunity to fail.
Yeah, I think it doesn't sound weird at all. I think it's very true. Now, Dee, when you're feeling it directly in the pocketbook, when you're seeing the money that you lost or you didn't make after you spend the money. I mean, his business is really simple, right? I mean, they're spending $30,000 to $40,000 a month to acquire a lead to drive a transaction that month. When you have somebody make a $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 mistake, how do you handle that?
Well, I think you always have to go back to the beginning and figure out, okay, where was the mistake made? Where do we, where was our information off? And that's usually where it starts. And then it also goes back to where's our information off, and then where do we make the mistake in the sales cycle?
Right.
Where do we not learn?
Yeah.
Where do we not ask the right question? And so, and then also it's understanding like you have enough pulse on your business to be able to go back and find that mistake.
Yeah.
And so, and that comes with just monthly, KPIs and
the willingness to do that, right?
Well,
it's
right.
painful. Inspection is painful.
Because I don't like that because that's not my personality.
No.
At all. But
especially everybody in this room has got, varying degrees of ADD. I mean, it probably goes, around the room this way.
But I think it goes back to we're talking about employing the right people, putting them in the right spots.
Yep.
And have people looking out in that type of way for you too. So.
Some of it's trust in the process, right? I mean, some of it is really, I'm reading this book called The Miracle Morning. I don't know if you've heard of this. And he's got this equation that he creates for how to create miracles, and it's unwavering faith and unlimited effort. So if you're willing to have unwavering faith, then you're gonna commit unlimited effort.
Right.
And so if it's basically making this decision that we're gonna do this or die trying. And so when you change your relationship with your team members, like, hey, I'm not going to quit on you just because you fail. You also change the type of people you recruit. You're going to recruit people that you're willing to spend unlimited effort in, that believe in the mission. You're going to find people that have the character and the skills, and then help them build the understanding of the business. I think it changes the game in who you put on your team, and to your point, how you recruit, right? That making sure you have the right players on the bus. But what happens is, I think sometimes when you see teams start to create miracles for you, then you trust the process. That, man, if I feel the momentum going, then I know that we're going to get where we want to go. And I think you guys have that. I've seen businesses that I've been in businesses that didn't have the mo. And you know that you're just stifled in the air just doesn't smell the same. I mean,
Right.
there's just not enough oxygen in the room. And then you're in these businesses that have the mo. And when
Right.
they've got that mo, it's like everybody's moving in that direction. I think you've got it here. I know Analytically does, and I think that's part of it. Do you believe there's another gear that you can just start to feel in the organization?
Yep, and then some days it's your job to bring it. Like you said, some days the process is working, and then that's your new normal. So I think to circle back to what you said, so then if you have the mo, and then you're at this level of mo, but then you're at that level of mo for a period of time, then it's your job as the founder, as the entrepreneur, as the leader, to be like, here we go again, time to kick it up a notch.
Yes.
Here's the new normal.
Just recognize when it's not there and what buttons you need to push.
Right.
I think that's really well said. So kind of changing gears, right? So if we're called to bring that momentum, how do we make sure that we're the spark of change? Because a lot of times that's really hard when you've had some negative things happen, when you have had a couple of failures, when it does look dark, right?
Right.
I think one of my favorite books about this type of stuff is the hard thing about hard things. Have you ever heard of this one? Oh my God, this guy! I mean, because he's so right. Every book about leadership is written when people are in harvest mode, right? When they're billion-dollar organizations and they're making profit, and we're deciding whether or not we get 22 or 23% EBITDA, right? I mean, that's different than when you're taking money and you're trying to make payroll and you're funding this on your own. There's not a lot of books written on leading small businesses, startups, technology companies, whatever. Those are hard decisions. How do you inspire yourself when the chips are down?
And maybe, so I think that there's some unicorns out there that they just have this naturally perseverant, positive, I mean, like, it's like nothing can make them waver, right? I think there's like, 0.0000001.
I don't think anybody's like that. I think that's just that's when we see their Facebook posts or their Twitter's handle or whatever. Those are the people that are in greater denial.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But for the rest of us,
yes,
right? For the rest of us that still want to achieve more and have big, fulfilling lives, I think it's practice. I think it's literally practice. And one of my mentors, when I was starting my career, he said, if you ever want to lead, you have to sell.
Yep.
And
that's great.
if you ever want to lead, you have to sell, because what you understand then is the months that you put in a bunch of effort and nothing happened, and the months that you put in moderate effort and a bunch of stuff happened, and the months, and then the heartbreak and the excitement, and then what you learn is like this. That the highs are high, the lows are lows, but you're the same all the time. And I think that's just like inevitably there's been some really tough times at Analytically, and the thing that I've just really committed to is just showing up the same every single day. Do we celebrate? Yeah.
You talk about something that I always try to talk with our everybody that we're pushing the show out to, and all my coaching clients and everybody I work with, is your show up.
Yeah.
The one thing you can control every day is how you show up, right? And that is what I think. When you were saying about people who really have come off like they're always up, they're relentless in how they show up. They're relentless with what they put in their head. They're relentless with taking care of their body. They're relentless with really motivating their brain to create positive action, to create positive motion. And I know I've watched you do this a lot. I've seen you do it just in the short time. It's like getting constant, more intentional control of how we show up is the most powerful thing you can do as a leader in your organization. Whether you're the CEO, the president, the VP of sales, whatever, you've got to control how you show up. Talk to me about what are some of the breakthroughs you both have had in how you show up.
With an organization of 7, you know, we, especially for us as remote as our business is, you know, each day you want to try to check in with each employee or each, you know, contractor or whatnot, and just see how their day's going, and then also, hey, how can I help you?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how my role's morphed. On top of, you know, like you said, I mean, you know, I'm still involved in the sales side of the business. I mean, that's what I grew up doing. That's what I love. And so, you know, I built our business around sales. And so I'm going to always stay involved in that, along with everything else. You know, it kind of keeps me fresh and, you know, whatnot. So, but I think the key part for at least our businesses is checking in, being available when they need, you know, when they're on a sales call and they need you, always being available and to that extent. But then also just knowing when to call quits for the day, and not bugging your team and letting them just be there with their family. You know, so those are key things I think to also keep morale high and create just employee retention, which is big. So that's how it's changed for us.
How about you?
Well, it makes it easier to show up once you do all that.
Right. And more fun.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
For me, it's when to just toss out the routine. When to just completely deviate from the plan, deviate from the process. When you're with somebody and you can tell that there is something else on their mind, the most powerful thing that you can do as a leader is close your laptop, put put your notes to the side, and just give them your undivided attention.
Show up with your empathy again.
Yeah, so you're leaning in as human beings,
Yeah, I you know, this is one that's always been difficult for me because I tend to get pretty focused on what I'm trying to accomplish, and I can buzzsaw, you know, through an organization, especially when I'm trying to get something done. And I've really had to work on this personally over the years because this has been a check that's come back for me over and over and over. Everything I've read about leadership is that one of the most important things you do to create a culture is to be vulnerable, to create that ability to fail, right? And to show vulnerability as a leader, to show that you're human, to show that you're not any better than the people that are around. And one of the things that I'm working on in our organization now is just like to lead by that, to help our other leaders who have been who maybe struggle with that, right? To show that vulnerability with the team, because I think that's part of what allows that failure culture, that ability to share honestly what they're struggling with. So what happens when you do? When you're able to have those moments with your people where you need them to be vulnerable, you're not going to get real answers,
right,
if you don't show that. And I think that's where, you know, a lot of times when you're in this white knight type of culture where the leader comes in and swashbuckling on their horse and they solve everybody's problems and they want to show no vulnerability.
Right.
You train your people that you're just there to fix their problems.
Right.
Would you agree? Or?
Oh, absolutely. One of my mentors really early on said the best thing that you can do is to share bad news as fast as you can and in person.
Wow. That's
sometimes you have to choose, right? Sometimes you have to choose, and you always choose speed over whether or not you're in person. And I think so. So now I'm at the stage of my business where the people that I'm hiring are smarter than me.
Yeah.
The people that I'm hiring have been doing it longer. They are more successful than I am.
Well, you can't even do their jobs.
No.
Right? I mean, like
No.
you can't write code. You don't know.
No.
You don't know big data analytics. I mean, you're not a data scientist. I mean, these are jobs that
Right.
in order for your organization to get to the next level, you cannot do.
Oh, exactly.
So how would you ever, like, if they wanted to hide information from you, as an example, if they weren't able to, if they didn't want to be vulnerable,
right,
they can protect for long periods of time failures that were made in the past, and those things have, you know, what are time bomb kind of effects on organizations like yours. Fair?
Yeah. And I think the way that you start and create that vulnerability is 3.5 years ago. Did I really understand what ETL was? Did I really understand the scale and efficiency that you need to have in a data warehouse? No. But when I'm hiring all these geniuses, I'm saying, you're joining our team, but I'm now your student.
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
So you've got to teach me to be able to make great decisions given your expertise.
So there's this phrase I use with a lot of my clients, and I call it mutual mystification. And I think what happens as teams get larger, and as diversified people come on,
Right.
As you bring on new with Brian, right? Brian Rowe doesn't understand our business. He's a data scientist guy, so he's helping us on some new things. And like some of the conversations that I've had with him about our business, like, wow, I thought that was obvious, but it wasn't obvious, right? And even though he's a genius and he's a mile deep and an inch wide in what he's a genius at, which is a lot of the case with tech companies, he didn't understand something that was pretty obvious to me.
Right.
And I think what happens is a lot of people in teams, as they're growing and they feel this momentum, they're in mystification of what other people understand. Talk to us about that.
Right. So I think that the coolest full circle moment for me was one of the reasons that we started Analytically and moved away from the payroll space was because of the work experiences of our team members. So it was like this, you could never delight your customers. They didn't have a great work life.
Yeah.
And so now, what do you have? You have these brilliant data scientists, data engineer, data warehousing experts, data. And then on this other side, you've got these subject matter experts that know HR, labor, productivity, maybe sides of a business that aren't exactly exalted.
Yeah.
And now you've got this mutual mystification because I see these meetings with like the data team that they're like, the HR person is like laying gold on them,
Yeah.
and then vice versa, and then they're like, wait, you can do that with data, So it's mutual. I love that mutual mystification.
Well, I've been in meetings with my VP of network who doesn't understand software development, and he was like, "Oh, that will be very hard. We cannot do this." And I'm thinking, that's exactly what we do. That's what we do.
Right.
Like, I think it's so important that coming back to making this full circle, having good communications with the team. One of the things that I've in my recent readings and study is as great teams have staccato type of communication. They speak and understand each other's, and almost can get to the point where they complete each other's conversation. Right. Or they understand. Like my joke was that we understand cells OEs. Right. Eventually, you can understand that broken text that you got.
Yeah.
I know what he means, and I'm thinking to myself,
is Carlson E's a thing?
Oh, I'm sure
Right.
it is. I'm sure it is. Bob is here's a shout out to Bob Carlson. He is it. I mean, so Bob's here on ADD scale. Dustin, you're here. I'm here. Jana's here.
Yeah.
I mean, this he's setting the tone for all of us, man.
Yeah.
He's got 3 meetings on on 15-minute intervals, and he forgot about another one. So
We love you, Bob.
yeah. But he is great at recognizing how to have that staccato type communication with the team
100%.
to get people up to speed. And because he's very self-aware, he also is very good at being vulnerable to make sure that that we joke about his how kind of ADD is, but he recognizes he creates that, so he brings everybody up to speed really quickly.
He creates a flow.
He creates a flow.
So you feel involved.
You do.
Yeah.
And so what happens around him is teams build and scale very quickly. And a lot of times if people were watching that from afar, other leaders, perfectionist type of leaders who want to be the smartest person on the team or think that it's a meritocracy for them to lead, they end up like trying to fix those guys. Fair? And what you really have to do is to make the team more important than any one of the other individuals. And that's what I've seen you guys do. And that's what I'm talking about. It's like when the team performs at the highest level, they are having those quick staccato type conversations. Would you guys agree?
Yep. And I think one of the challenges though that we've had in our business is like there's like this clicking and grunting and like, side eye and this and like, hey, can we do it like we did last Thursday? And then there's someone new in the room.
Yeah.
So then one of the things that we've really focused on, and we haven't gotten perfect, but we've really focused on over the last like 3 or 4 new hires, is like pulling them in.
Yeah.
Right, and then also giving them salient examples, because in a small business you don't have hours, days, weeks, months just to backfill everything.
Yep.
But I think it's even that moment of pulling them aside and be like, hey, 3 months ago I had no clue. You know, so I see that a lot. Like, hey, just stay in the pool, keep playing, or stay on the court, keep playing. It's kind of like the easiest. Like when you learn a new card game. Have you ever had someone try to explain to you how to play a card game?
Yeah.
And then you're like, can we just start playing it?
Yeah.
Because then I'll learn.
Yeah.
That's, I think in a small company, I need the people that are like, I'm just going to keep kind of like barely
showing up,
barely winning, like getting an accidental win in a good hand.
Yeah, we just had to do a big change within our organization of changing CRM softwares.
Right.
And you're talking about moving from a very small
change management 101.
Yeah.
Everyone just went like this.
Yeah. And fortunately, I had the staff to be able to just I put 2 lead individuals on it and just said, hey, listen, you handle this, I'll handle everything else. And they got really good really fast at what it's going to take to get our lead, our clients, our all of our leads transferred to the new software. And so they did a great job, and I just let them do their job.
Yeah.
I didn't try to get involved in it. I didn't really want to be involved in it.
Right.
But I knew enough.
He wanted to be like 5 levels away from that. He was happy that was
It's so easy on a project like that. It's so easy to like be like, you got
Delegate
that. But then when a big deal comes up, you're like, so what do you do? How's it going?
Right. Now train me. Now train me how to do it. So know enough to be dangerous. So, but they enjoyed that. And so I think
ownership. They wanted to own it. They wanted
autonomy.
Well, I think that goes back to
autonomy. Yes.
When you hire the right people, that's what they're in their job description. They enjoy that.
Yeah.
And so you put them on a big task like that. They're gonna.
Well, I think there's a couple lessons there, right? I mean, first off, all technology adoption is change management. And whenever we make a technology recommendation, I always say you're going to hate it for the first 90 days. Just be okay with that. We're going to hate it. We're going to get through this together. I mean, it's all plumbing. It was CRM. It's just plumbing. We're changing plumbing. We got to learn it. Garbage in, garbage out. But part of that is you gave the autonomy to the team to do that. You stepped away and let them self-manage to the goal, right? But I also think it's like it's that understanding of they were going to do something better than you were, which makes you vulnerable, right? I mean, but how do we fail? How have we failed at giving delegation away? So you chimed on it, right? So it's like when's the last time you feel like you didn't do? I mean, we're talking a lot of kumbaya right now, but I know there's some times where we didn't let something go. As much as we let it go, which is even worse, and we didn't monitor it to the degree we should have, and it failed. What have been some learning curves from that?
So I think for me, when it was your idea, and then you've got a background in business development, and you're a natural extrovert, and you're really passionate about it. Boy, oh boy, do I want to be involved
in the weeds with
in a conversation. Like, so what are you doing next?
Or this is what we should have said.
Yeah. Or what if we did it this way? Or hey, if I had 8 hours, we could create this piece of content that would be great in this situation. And you just create this environment where I actually had a sales leader take me aside and be like, you need to stop. And his exact words were, "butt out," meaning, I need you to go be the president of the company. I need you to go push us forward. You are working on this one deal, but I'm like, but they're so important. He goes, and do you not trust me?
Yep.
And do you not trust me to do my job?
Yep.
And he goes, because if it's that conversation, then let's have it. And so you go back to, you want to create. I think that's the ultimate compliment as a leader, where you create an environment where someone comes to you and checks you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you had to have a culture where that was okay.
Right.
You had to have that kind of trust with your executive team.
That was okay. Man, if you criticize, give me bad feedback, if you I actually value that more than anything else.
I've given it to her, and I can validate that. So
I'm like, more, please.
Yeah. Right. How about you, Dee?
I mean, for me, I'm so closely involved with the P&L. And usually when the P&L is starting to go into the negative in the month, my initial reaction is to go sell, is to get involved and start butting into everybody's job and figure out, well, why
You're Lenny and the Rabbit, like,
right, absolutely, and as opposed to just, all right, let's go look at the numbers that we're tracking.
And then coach instead of
correct.
Strategy versus tactics.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So this is one as a consultant. So I've been doing a lot of org dev consulting over the last 15 years. So one of the first things I put in was new compensation plan in the organization, and not thinking at any point in time that someone would take advantage of the new compensation plan, and that we wouldn't get the exact result that I was thinking. And so when we started looking at the numbers, what ended up happening is, people were selling more, but they were selling more of this one kind of thing that was easier for them to sell, and we weren't really going after solutions, and we weren't creating technology, people, and processes, we like call it. And it was literally like one of my number two persons that was figured out how to take And so now I've learned when you put that new compensation plan in, you've got to really go and trust but verify, because you read the books, you see it happen in other businesses, you've implemented it, and then you go and you just think that doing it again it's just going to automatically happen again, right? And you kind of get a little cocky in the impact that you've made in the past happening again. And that's really one that I could say, it's like, wow, that one I didn't see, and I should have, right? And if I would have just followed my normal process, that we would have, right? I think that's I think that's an important thing that for just a man, all the impact you're trying to make every day. We know we develop rules of thumb, and those rules of thumb allow us to hack, business growth, process development, org dev, whatever. But you still got to check to make sure that the process is working. You still got to get on the scale. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I'm cutting out these things and I'm working out and I'm trying it, but you still got to get on the scale every now and then, right? And that to me was one for me. So
I think it's so easy because there's like this: don't micromanage. Hire great people and get out of their way. But hire great people, get out of their way, but make sure that they have enough context.
Well, and this is one that I thought we stumbled into too. One of the things I've watched you guys do, and I know that we're doing this, is like when we've made a problem, and I know that we do this too, when we've solved for a problem, document the solution and make that part of the new way that is our way, right? I think that's just have that to give to the next person that comes on, so they can at least catch up to, and there's this 10 commandments, if you will, on how you're going to do something for Analytically, for Ironclad, for the Brookfield Group, for whoever it is.
Right.
You've got something there. That SOW is there. That SOP is there.
Right.
So if it changes, we can change from something. We just don't. At least it's explicit. Is that fair?
Yep, and then that creates your language. Going back to what you said earlier, then that helps that person get up to speed faster and feel like they're in the flow.
When they're starting to repeat it back to you, then you know you're winning. Is that fair?
Right.